Alright, so as you can see behind me, we're working on the AE86 today. I got the Annex suspension Fastroad Pro coilovers for the AE86 chassis. These coilovers are tested, designed, and made for this chassis. I know Annex suspension did a lot of R&D, a lot of work to get these coilovers into the point where they are. These aren't some just cheap knockoff coilovers that all have the same spring rate, you know, 8 to 6. 8 in the front and 6 in the back. These are like true, really good brand coilovers, and it's well worth the money. So I'm gonna go ahead and start by jacking up the rear end. We're gonna do the rear first. The preload is already set on the springs, but what I did for the ride height is I just kind of set like a trial ride height, and after I put them on, we'll see how much we need to adjust it.
How'd you manage to get a hold of something like this? I just can't believe you got this for the 86. That's amazing.
Yeah, me either. Haven't felt this excited in a while.
Alright, so sorry I didn't show much of the rear coilovers being installed. It basically all I did was a time lapse. So you just take the bottom bolt out, and once you take the bottom bolt out and loosen the nut from the top of the shock, you can just lower the rear end, and then you're able to take the springs out. Since I have a true rear coilover setup in the rear, basically the reason for me choosing to do the true rear in the back is because I want to do a Ford 8.8 eventually rear end in this thing. So whenever I get that rear end set up, I don't want to have to worry about sourcing another brand of coilovers. So I went ahead and just did that from the get-go. That way I don't have to worry about it. But yeah, you just undo the bottom bolt, undo the nuts on top of the shock, and then you just lower the rear end, take the spring out, and take the shock out, and then it's obviously installation is opposite of removal. Alright, so this is how we're looking on the back end. Obviously it's going to be a little bit different because the front is still up in the air, so it obviously has the want to do the Cali lean right now. But I'm going to go ahead and move to the front. It's not that bad. All you got to do is take the caliper off and set it to the side, and then take the hub out, take the caliper bracket out. Make sure that you keep your spindle nut, because the Annex coilovers do not come with a new spindle nut, so make sure you have that. And that's it. So just slide the hub out, take the top bolts out, and then this should all drop out. So I put most of it back together. Now all I'm doing to the hub is I'm going to set the wheel bearings. They're all packed, everything's greased up, good to go. So huge shout out to CM Auto House. They also have the video where I learned this technique as well. But basically I have my 22mm socket on the torque wrench set to 21 foot-pounds. And what you're going to want to do is spin the hub, and while you're spinning the hub, you're tightening this. So basically what's happening is the wheel bearing itself is getting seated evenly. So let's go ahead and do that. And the hub stopped, but we're still going to go ahead and tighten it. Now we're going to back it off until the hub starts spinning, about a quarter turn. Okay. So then I'm going to do that again just to make sure that the bearing is seated in there correctly. So, like I said, you spin it and tighten it at the same time. Back it up again. Okay. Alright, so now really to do this you need a spring gauge to make sure that you have the right preload on the bearings, right? But I don't have a spring gauge. So just like the CM House video said to do, is you're going to spin this, and while this is spinning you're going to tighten this slowly until the hub stops. And then once you're there it'll get you pretty close in the ballpark of where you need to be. Right. And that feels pretty good. About where it's supposed to be. So now what I'm going to do is just put the rest of the brakes back together, and then this side should be done. I'll set it on the ground just to see kind of where I'm at as far as the baseline goes with the ride height. Alright, so this is day number 2 of trying to get the Annex coilover set up on the AE86. Basically what happened last night is the camera died and I didn't want to stop working, so I just continued and did the driver's side as well. So basically what's happening now is I'm setting up the ride height. The way it works is you're lengthening the shock body to however much you want to come up or down. But there's also like a little side hole at the bottom of the shock body, and you need to see threads within that little side hole, otherwise you run the risk of damaging the suspension. So basically what that little side hole does is it's a way to see that there's always like sufficient thread in the bottom housing. So in order, like right now I'm like hella slammed on this thing. It's super low to the ground. This thing is super low, like I can barely fit my finger right there, and I'm scraping, the tire's scraping on this inner plastic. So obviously I need to raise it, right? But the problem is that I'm running out of shock body. So if I need to come up, then I need to lengthen the shock body, and if I lengthen it too much, then I'm losing the side of the threads in the little side hole. So I don't know what to do because we are freaking slammed on front and back. This thing's pretty low. The back is really good. That predetermined height that I set up was really good, but I've done everything. I've set this thing up by the book, the user guide that they include whenever you get the box. So I emailed Annex, and then I also hit them up on Instagram to see if they can help me out. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I don't think I'm doing anything wrong. I've done everything how it says to do it. So right now I'm just gonna set up the ride height, measure the corner gap on all 4 corners, lift the car up, and then see what we can do from there. Alright, so this is what I have to do. Place the vehicle on the ground and measure from the wheel hub center to the highest point on the fender / wheel opening. Write this measurement down and repeat on all 4 corners. This measurement is the wheel gap. Raise the vehicle and support it. Adjust the shock length to the desired amount on each corner using by rotating the shock body, right? So then you tighten the lock nut, lower the vehicle, roll it forward and backward to help the spring settle, and measure the wheel gap again, as depicted by this picture here. So like I said, this is the little side hole. There's a little hole right there that you have to be able to see the thread to make sure that you have adequate thread within this housing, this bottom housing. So whenever I raise the car, in this case, I have to rotate the shock body to lengthen it, right? So I'm turning it counterclockwise from outside of here. So as I'm turning it out of here, I'm losing sight of this thread. That's the problem that I'm having. Alright, Alright, so I just did the measurements, and on the driver front I got 29.3, driver rear 31.2 millimeters, passenger rear 31.2, and passenger front 30.4. So the rear are good, but the fronts are bad. So now what I'm gonna do is just jack up the car and then try to extend the shock body. Alright, so this is the issue that I'm having, like I said. So this little hole right here, you're supposed to be able to see the threads of the shock body through this little hole. So my measurement, like I said, for the driver's front was 29.3, and I want to match it with the back, which is 31.2, so I need to go up. I also took some calipers and measured between here and here, and I got like 119.2. I'm sorry, 119.11. So I want to move this up, right? But here's the problem. You can see that I already loosened this bottom collar, and whenever I bring it up, I know it's hard to see, but you can't see any more threads in there. So I'll bring it back down, and the threads are back in. You can see that bit of the metal right there. So whatever I need to bring up, the thread starts going away, and now it's just a dark hole in there. So that's the issue that I'm having, because like I said, you need to have that much clearance in here at all times. Alright, so basically what I ended up doing is, in order to get it equal to the back, I just added the difference to the caliper and then just match that up here. There is still some thread in the hole. It may not be protruding throughout the entire diameter of the hole, but there's still some thread in there. So it may not be the full 50 mils from top of hole to bottom of hole, but it's probably like 47 mils or 48 mils. So I don't know if it's going to pose that much of a risk, but it was enough to equal the front to the back, at least right here. So now I'm going to move on to the other side and match that up, and then see where we're at there. Alright guys, so this is how it came out. I'm more happy with how it's fitting now. I may have to do like a fender pull. I have already slightly rolled these fenders, so it's a little bit better, but I feel better about it though, because I can, and I measured from the center to the top of the fender, and it's the same all the way around. So now I'm just gonna get in the car and then drive it around the block and see if it rubs anywhere. Oh shit. Alright, things I've learned so far. It doesn't rub, which is a good thing. It doesn't rub under like normal circumstances, like manhole covers or just regular like small potholes. More torque. My brother's cutting the grass, so like I said, his motor's got more torque than the car. But anyway, it doesn't rub them under normal circumstances. Like I said, regular sized potholes. Obviously, if I hit like a pretty decent sized pothole, or like a variation in the road, like on the interstate, you know how like when you go over bridges. Please don't come for me, cop. I always get, dude, I don't know how I do that. I always get out in front of cops, or cops always see me in this fucking thing. Like I don't want to go over cops and shit. Like, I'm trying to hoon, bro. Cops don't come after me, dude. But overall, I'm pretty happy with how it sits. The stance looks good. Next is